Hi there. Um, I've finally completed my um, great guitar build of 2021 guitar, and I'm extremely pleased. It was a very ambitious undertaking for my first build, but I think um, it's come off extremely well. Um, as you can imagine, with any initial build, there's always a learning curve. There's always challenges. Um, and I hope I've overcome them all. And certainly the feedback I've had so far is that people are really impressed with it, and I certainly am. The whole idea was based around doing something that incorporated the pickups into the actual final design of the guitar. I knew that I didn't have the best quality wood available on my first build. I don't have the money to waste on some beautiful wood that I screw up. So I knew from the beginning that I was going to do something that was going to be painted. I do landscape painting. Would be simple enough for me to do that, to apply that sort of skill to the guitar body. Looking at the shape of the pickups, the first thing that came to my mind was gate posts. And I thought, well, I can then sort of use the wall that the gate posts will be attached to link up to the neck and to continue off the body and sort of, in some way, the bridge. Background, it would be just sort of to pull you in, to sort of step through the gate into the picture. It's a photographic and painting sort of technique to sort of to do that, and there saw no reason not to do it with the guitar. But that sort of presented other issues, is that having taken this approach to paint the body, that it would be jarring to have, again, metalwork, or to minimise the amount of metalwork on the body, because it would damage the effect, and sort of would be jarring to the senses to have a nice sort of a countryside scene with then a large metal bridge in the middle of the wall. It just wouldn't look right. So I got to thinking how I could overcome this, and the idea I came up with was to use Perspex. It's obviously clear. It's fairly soft, so it's sort of workable and polished and shaped, and that's what I went with. Again, the Perspex isn't the best surface for a string to sit on, so I just got some small nails, chopped off the ends, and filed grooves into them, and then glued them on top of the little Perspex squares. And this allowed the string to sort of sit on a metal edge, and the little screws that can raise and lower the level of the strings. And because the little squares of Perspex are loose fitting, you can move them backwards and forwards using the tension of the string to keep it in position, but you can get the intonation correct, or as correct as can be. But again, this allowed using all this Perspex to not to minimise, like I said, the jarring of the sensors when looking at overall design. And the same went for the volume, tone, and switch cover. Again, the metal, I could have used it, but I think it would have been jarring. So again, I used a Perspex plaque and attached it. One of the biggest challenges was actually getting the 5-way switch fitted, because the wood I used was from chair legs, dining room chairs, which I glued together. So the woods were all sort of different grades and sort of colours, and that's why. But I knew this when I started, so that's why I was quite happy to sort of do it and then paint over them. But they weren't particularly deep, and a 5-way switch is. So it took quite a little bit of jiggly pokery to get it not only to fit, but actually to put a lid on top. And what I had to do ultimately was I had to mount the 5-way switch to the Perspex plate, put a little piece of wood veneer on, and paint it so it sort of merged with the background. So again, you wouldn't necessarily see it, and that gave me a few extra millimeters depth rather than having the switch come through some wood like I could do with the volume and tone pots. I still had to carve out a big chunk in the plate covering it, but we got there just. I bought a neck because I had enough challenges getting the body completed without figuring out how to build and sort of finish a neck from scratch on my very first build. So I cut it down and carved a leaf shape. I probably went a little bit too far and hadn't properly calculated how the tuning machines would fit in together, and so the top two are a little bit too tight. You probably will see in the photographs that there is a slight angle to it. It's only slight, and it's equal both sides, so it's a little bit of give on that. Apologies. Finishing and polishing, again, because I knew the wood wasn't good and because I had painted it, finish I just covered with the sort of water-based lacquer, and applied several coats, but I didn't sand in between because the paint was rough. I would just start taking bits of the paint off. Again, the neck is nice and shiny, but it doesn't drag on the fingers on the thumb when you're using it, so that's fine. But I wasn't planning the rest of the body to be sort of a high gloss or a matte or flush finish, because of the painting would have taken away all of that. And I can say finally that with the image I had in my head and the ambition and the plan that I had, it has worked way better than I thought. It looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic. It's got a real lovely sound to it. And as you'll see in the video, there's 5 pickups. I used the Bill Lawrence wiring, so the sort of phasing and sort of shifting, and it just sounds delicious and a pleasure to play. And it looks pleasurable and it is pleasurable to look at as well. So I'm just overjoyed, and very proud and highly delighted to add this as my entry into the competition, and I will see what happens.